Right. So we last time we stopped at we were talking about organizational structures or departmentalization type of structures we can adopt. In that we discussed basically there are four types of uh, organization structures: functional structure, customer structure, product structure, location structure. Right. So apart from that, there is another type of organization structure or departmentalization, in other words, that can be known as matrix structure. Matrix structure, right? It's something like a matrix, right? I know you may have known about what is a matrix, right? So matrix structure is like this, as you can see on the slide, right? So there is a special type of organizational structure or departmentalization, so which simply means that departments can be divided or splitted as a matrix. Here you can see, if you forget about this thing, right? So this particular column, right? So you can simply have a functional structure here, right? So when you go from top to bottom, this is a functional structure. So at the same time, when you go to the from left to right, so there is another structure. There is a manager horizontally and vertically. So this is horizontally. There is horizontal manager. Under each manager, there are employees, right? So this is a particular department. As you can see, right? So this is a particular department, right? This is a particular department. This is a particular department, and as well as this is a particular department, right? So, but this is here, when you consider this one, this is, as you can see, there are no lines under this, right? But here you can see this, which means that this particular employee is under this. So there is a lines of communication. There are lines, right? This particular line denotes that this person is responsible to this particular manager. Line denotes the relationship, right? So relationship in the sense that this is an employee, this particular employee need to report this manager, and this manager supervise this particular employee. And under this employee, there is another employee, right? Which means that this particular person must be supervised by this person. And there is another employee, right? Which means that this particular supervisor needs to supervise this particular individual, right? So which means that this is a subordinate, this is a supervisor, this is a supervisor, this is subordinate, and this is subordinate, this is a supervisor, right? So this is particular this is particularly a department, right? So similar things happen here as well, right? Same thing, right? But here you don't see this. There are lines, no lines, which means that there are like this particular row, right? So there are lines, which means that they are in the they are in the same level, which does not mean that this particular person is a supervisor of this particular person, which means that this particular if I draw like this particular line denotes that they are in the same level. So they are, like, for example, the classic example is Dean MNF, Management and Finance. Dean AHS, Dean AHS, right? So which does this, but this does not mean that Dean AHS is under the Dean MNF, right? So there are no orders given by the AHS or MNF to this person. They are independent persons who report to the Vice Chancellor, right? So they are in the same level. They don't have relationship, and they don't give instructions with each other, which means that there are no lines of communication. And at the same time, if you want to have a lines of communication, just go to this particular general manager, and through general manager you can order. For example, if you, let's say, our organization, this is a formal channel, formal organizational channel. Informally, for example, if you take Dean AHS can communicate with the Dean MNF and informally have lectures, that is, but not legal, right? Suppose that, for example, AHS pharmacy department, let's say this is the AHS, right? So this is AHS and this is pharmacy department head, right? Pharmacy department head, right? Now under the pharmacy department, we have management subject, right? So now the pharmacy department heads want to have a lecturer from the faculty of management. Let's say we have management faculty. Under the management faculty, we have human resource management department. And under that department, I am there. Right? So now the pharmacy department head wants to have me as a lecturer to conduct this management subject. Right? What she can do? What she is doing now? She needs to write a letter. This coming semester, there is a subject called management. We need to have a lecture. We need to have a lecturer from management faculty need to be appointed for this particular subject. Now she writes a letter and that letter is sent to the Dean AHS. And Dean, what Dean said, Dean sent to the Vice Chancellor, and through Vice Chancellor, this particular letter is sent to this. And Dean sent this particular to the HR department, and through HR department, the request comes to me. Then if I agree, then he write a letter, he propose a letter, he propose my name through a letter to the department head, and basically department head prepares that, then sent to the dean, and through dean that can be accommodated. Once that letter comes, he can appoint, she can prepare a appointment letter and send to the vice chancellor, and again the same letter is sent to me as an appointment letter. So that's how communication process is going on, right? And that is formal. Otherwise, that is informal, right? So simply, we can contact like this, right? But that does not follow the common procedures. That is not the procedure. That is not the formal way of communicating. Informally, she can ask me by giving a phone call and whether I'm possible to do that. Simply, I can say, right? I can say yes. In that case, she can proceed the letter like this, right? Otherwise, what will happen? Without asking me, she prepares the letter. Then letter comes. Nearly 2 weeks spent for that. Then I refuse to to conduct that letter. Then refusal letter is sent to the dean, and again 2 weeks gone. Then altogether 1 month gone. Then another lecturer need to be appointed. So again for that she needs to wait at least another 1 month or 2 months. So then time has already gone. Then sometimes semester will be over in that case, right? So therefore, what she normally does is she make a phone call informally and ask whether we are possible or not. So then once we give our consent, she she channel the formal letter through this formal channel. Even though she has processed the letter, I haven't not received the letter yet, right? I haven't not received the letter, formal letter yet, my appointment letter. So it will come later on, but we are doing with our mutual trust, right? So that's how it is happening. But that's not the thing what I'm going to tell you today under the metric structure, right? So metric structure here, these things represents the people who are in the same level, have same authorities and same responsibilities, but does not have any interconnections, right, between these two positions, like this. So these people are the supervisors. These people are the leaders, right? So which means that there is in horizontally there is an organization structure. At the same time, we have a vertically there is a organization structure. So which means that this, if you take this particular person, he has two supervisors. He need to report to him, manufacturing manager. At the same time, he need to report to the project manager. Right? If you take this person, he has basically two supervisors, two leaders. Can you understand what I'm telling? Two leaders like me. For example, I am here. I am reporting to the let's say this is pharmacy department. I am reporting to the HR department. At the same time, I am reporting to the pharmacy department. The same thing can be applied to these two persons as well, right? So now I'm asking, can you explain in reality what type of organization, which this type of organization is applied to in which context, really, practically? I don't know whether you may have aware about this. Really, this type of organization structure is applied in the real world context. I'm asking which type of organization is that? Give me an example organization that has already applied this kind of a organization structure. Management faculty and art faculty is not the clear. I took it as an example of organization, but it doesn't have this kind of a 100% features like metric structure, but that is not a metric structure, in fact. But however, there are some clear metrics organization structure applied in the real world, right? Please don't confuse with the management faculty and the other faculties as I took for the explanation. So that is not a clear matrix organization. It is a really functional organization. We are coming as a visiting basis, external appointments, right? Visiting basis, right? That's why we are saying that we are not a 100% matrix organization, right? So we 100% need to report to our department head, and while reporting, we are doing, for example, I am doing as a visiting appointment, right? External employment, doing in this context, right? So that's but here in this in the matrix organization structure, clearly internal employee reporting to one manager. At the same time, he is reporting to another manager, not as a visiting basis, not as an outsider. He is an internal employee. This particular level representing a management, and this particular level representing the management as well. And right, so these people are managerial people, management people, and under these two management levels, a particular employee is there. This can be seen in reality project-based organization, seen in project-based organizations, right? Project-based organization. What are the project-based organizations? There are projects, project 1, project B, project C, right? If you take MAGA, Access Engineering, MAGA construction company, right? So MAGA having its head office, having their own functional structure. Maybe there are manufacturing manager, there are engineering manager, HR manager, sales manager, right? Chief engineer, and as well as project managers. So MAGA is undertaking different projects located island-wide, worldwide, having India another construction site, let's say road development project in north part of the country, road development project in western part of the country, southern part of the country, right? Let's say, what do you call this? Highway project in, what do you say? How can you say that? So Kandy Highway project, Kurunagala Highway project, let's say Hambantota Highway project. There are 3 projects, right? So each project, separate project, Kandy Highway project. So there is a project staff, right? Representing manufacturing department, representing engineering department, representing sales department, representing HR, right? Representing marketing, likewise, right? So there is a project team. There are special functional managers in the head office. They are sometimes this particular project team working in Kandy, right? But head office is located in, let's say, Colombo, right? The head office people are there in the Colombo office, and while reporting, uh, these people, projector people to the head office, at the same time, they are reporting to the project manager as well. There is a project manager for Kandy Highway project, and under project manager, they are reporting to the project as well. Maybe sometimes they are located in the Kandy related area, right? Sometimes once a week or once a month or once 6 months, they are reporting to the head office. Go to the head office, right? So this is clearly talking about matrix type organization structure, which is highly practically applicable or applied in the construction industry in Sri Lanka, right? So this type of structure can be seen, right? Anything you didn't understand relating to this? This is purely a matrix organization structure, right? Another matrix organization structure, which is given as an example, right? Now, the third building blocks. What is the third building blocks? Establishing reporting relationship. We are talking about the building blocks, right? What is the first building blocks? Designing jobs. Second building block, departmentalization. Third building blocks. Now you design jobs, right? So this is coming as an order, right? So once you develop the job 1, job 2, job 3, likewise you have developed the jobs. Then you departmentalize. Right? You divided into separate departments, right? Like this. This is departmentalized. The second point. And third point is the reporting relationship. Who report to whom? This person report to this particular person. This particular person need to report, that denotes by the lines, right? That has been already drawn. But we need to we need to talk about some principles under this, right? So reporting relationship, who report to whom? Under that, we basically talking about chain of command, two important considerations, chain of command and span of management, right? So line is already created, but in these lines denote these two, chain of command and span of management, right? Important considerations need to be made under these two areas, right? So let's see what are these things and how, what are the meanings of these two things, right? So basically reporting relationship consists with chain of command and span of management. First, chain of command. Chain, what do you mean by chain? Chain means no, what do you call this? How do you call that? Unbroken lines of authority. Chain of command. Unbroken lines of authority. Unbroken lines. There are lines which has not broken or which has not separated. So each and every job is linked with another job with a line, by a line, right? So which means that command is coming from top to bottom as a chain, right? So in this case, command is coming from top to bottom. If you have this particular two people, there is this line denotes the commands, orders, advices, instructions. Now, for example, uh, AHS head, not AHS, pharmacy head instructs me relating to how to do this particular job to me, right? She's instructing me. I have to obey. I have to follow those instructions, right? So therefore, there is a chain of command. Chain of command consists two principles. Chain of command consists two principles: unity of command and scala principle or scala principle. There are different people pronouncing this: scala principle or scala principle, right? So we need to talk about that as well. Unity of command. What is unity of command? Command is orders, advices, instructions. Unity means one, which means that always when in an organization, do you have two supervisors here like this? No. Unity means one. Orders always coming from one supervisor, right? If you have somebody else, right? Always all the orders coming from only one supervisor. Only one leader is there. Do we have two vice chancellors in our organization? Do you have two deans or three deans? Do you have two department heads? No. So which means that unity of command. Command always must come from only one supervisor. If there are two supervisors, what will happen? එක්කෙනෙක් හිට ගන්න කියනවා, අනිත් එක්කෙනා වාඩි වෙන්න කියනවා. What will happen? So both people are having the same authorities. නායකයෝ දෙන්නෙක් ඉන්නවා. නායකයෝ දෙන්නෙක් හිටියම මොකද වෙන්නේ? එක්කෙනෙක් එකක් කියනකොට තව එක්කෙනෙක් තව එකක් කියනවා. නේ? ගෙදර දැන් අම්මයි තාත්තයි දෙන්නත් නායකයෝ වුණාම අම්ම එකක් කියනවා තාත්තා තව එකක් කියනවා. නේ? එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? දරුවා අසරණයි. එක්කෙනෙකුට වැඩි බලයක් දෙන්න ඕනේ හැමතිස්සෙම. එහෙම තමයි සර්වයිවල් එක තියෙන්නේ. right? ඔන්න එතකොට බලය වැඩි කෙනා ඉන්ස්ට්‍රක්ෂන්ස් දෙනවා ඒක නැති වෙනවා. දැන් අර පහුගිය කාලෙක ඕක ෆැමිලි ඉන්ෆෝමල් සෙටප් එකට උනත් වැදගත්. නේ පහුගිය කාලේ මට ඇහුණා නිවුස් එකකට කියනවා මේ කාන්තාවක් දරුවට කිරි දෙමින් ඉන්නකොට පුංචි මේ අඩු වයස් කාන්තාවක් දරුවෙක් ඉපදිලා බැඳලා විවාහ වෙලා ගෙදර ජීවත් වෙනකොට හවස කිරි දෙමින් ඉඳලා තියෙන දරුවට ඊට පස්සේ කවුද පිට මිනිස්සෙක් ඇවිල්ලා ගෙදරට එනකොට මේ ගෙදරට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා ගෙදරට ඇවිල්ලා එනකොට මොකක් හරි එළියේ කලබගෑනියක් වෙනකොට හස්බන්ඩ් කියලා තියෙනවා වයිෆ්ට ගෙදරට ගේ ඇතුළට යන්න දරුවට කිරි දෙන නිසා කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ හස්බන්ඩ්ගේ අම්මත් ඉඳලා වයිෆ්ගේ අම්මත් ඉඳලා වයිෆ්ගේ තාත්තත් ඉඳලා ඊට පස්සේ වයිෆ්ගේ තාත්තා හරි කවුරු හරි කියලා තියෙනවා ගේ ඇතුළට යන්න එපා ඔහොම ඉන්න කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ මේක දැන් එක්කෙනෙක් කියනවා ගේ ඇතුළට යන්න කියලා අනිත් එක්කෙනා කියනවා ඔහොම ඉන්න කියලා. එතකොට දැන් ඉන්න කියලා කියන්නේ ගෑනු කෙනාගේ තාත්තා. ගේ ඇතුළට යන්න කියන්නේ ගෑනු කෙනාගේ හස්බන්ඩ්. දැන් ඕඩර්ස් දෙකක්. නේ? දැන් අර කාන්තාවට තාත්තගෙන් හම්බ වෙන ඕඩර් එක ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නද හස්බන්ඩ්ගෙන් හම්බ වෙන ඕඩර් එක ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නද කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක්. මොකද එයාටත් යම් තාක් එයාගේ තාත්තනේ. එයාගේ තාත්තා කියන්නේ එයාගේ පවුලේ ප්‍රධානියා. එතකොට හස්බන්ඩ් කියන්නේ දැන් වර්තමාන පවුලේ ප්‍රධානියා. දැන් ඔය දෙක අතර ලොකු ගැටණයක් වයිෆ්ට. ඉතින් වයිෆ් අන්තිමට තාත්තා කියපු දේ අහලා යන්න ප්‍රමාද වෙලා. ඊට පස්සේ හස්බන්ඩ් තරහ ගිහිල්ලා උඹට මං කිව්වනේ යන්න කියලා. ඊට ගෙදරට යන්න කියලා කිව්වනේ. ඒ ඔතන රණ්ඩුවක් ඇති වෙලා අන්තිමට ඒ රණ්ඩුව දුර දිග ගිහිල්ලා ඊට පස්සේ තාත්තා ඒ කියන්නේ අර කාන්තාවගේ තාත්තා මරණයටපත් වෙලා තියෙනවා අර හස්බන්ඩ්ගේ අතින්. ඊට පස්සේ ඒක බේරන්න ගියපු ඒ කාන්තාවගේ අම්මගේ අතක් කපලා දාලා මේ හස්බන්ඩ් විසින්. එතකොට අපරාධ දෙකක්. එකක් මිනි මරලා අනිත් එක්කෙනාගේ අර කාන්තාවගේ තාත්තා මරණයටපත් කරලා තියෙනවා අම්මගේ අත කපලා. හරිනේ? මේ මොකද්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? මේ unity of command නැති එක. unity of command. හරිනේ? ඒක නිසා මේක හරි බරපතලයි. ඒක කවුද මේක ඉන්ට්‍රොඩියුස් කරේ මේ ලෝකෙටම bureaucracy කියන management theory එක ඉන්ට්‍රොඩියුස් කරේ කවුද? Max Weber. Max Weberගේ theory එක මේ. Max Weber හැමතිස්සෙම කිව්වා principles පහක්. order එක අනුව place කරන්න. unity of command තියෙන්නේ නේ. authority එක lines of authority තියන්න. lines of authority mean unity of command. Always command, orders, instructions must be come from one supervisor. If there are two supervisors, three supervisors, then there may be conflicts. Right? So unity of command. Then what happens when when you have this kind of an organization? Unity of command. Do you have an unity of command? If you take this particular person, right? If you take this particular person, do you have, he need to report to this particular manager, at the same time he need to report to this particular manager, which means that there are two instructions maybe come simultaneously from two supervisors, right? So which means that there are two managers, two leaders to this particular employee, right? So then we are talking about this is a point where the unity of command principles violate. This is a point where unity of command principle violate in the matrix organization structure. At the examination, you may have a question on this. What type of organization structure that unity of command violates? Explain with examples. Right? Simply, I can give you a question. What type of organization, in which organization structure, the unity of command principle violated? Because unity of command in the third building block, right? First building block, job designing. Second building block, departmentalization. Third building block, reporting relationships. In the reporting relationships, we are talking about several principles to be employed, addressed, several principles to be addressed, right? So one of that several principles is the unity of command, which means that in establishing relationships, orders or instructions or supervisions always come from only one supervisor, right? So that is technically known as unity of command. That is technically known as unity of command. But that unity of command principle violated by a certain kind of an organization structure. What is that? Explain with example. Right? So example is matrix organization structure. Right? So then you can explain at the as by nature, matrix organization structure has two supervisors, right? Two supervisors for a particular employee at the same time. Orders can come simultaneously from two supervisors to a particular individual employed in a matrix organization structure. But this drawback does not exist longer. Does not exist longer because once the project becomes over, so this particular violation is there for a temporary time period, because project does not last forever. Once the project finished, that project staff is dissolved. They've originally come back to the original departments, right? Let's suppose that, for example, once this project is over, this particular project is dissolved, right? So then this particular project manager may be working in another organization. These people are working in the original departments, dissolved. They are really coming back to their original departments once the project is over, right? So therefore, this particular organization is, we simply say that does not exist longer time, right? But however, remember that that principle is violated by this organization structure, unity of command principle. That is a criticism for this particular organization structure. But people, even though that criticism and drawback is there, people try to avoid those things. by experience. Right, chain of command, unity of command, Scala principle. Scala principle, there must be a clear and unbroken lines of authority. Clear and unbroken lines of authority, which means that you have a supervisor there, and under that supervisor, you have two subordinates. Each subordinate has given another two subordinates, which means that these two subordinates, these two people become subordinates, and this subordinate become a supervisor. And if you take this like this, again, so that's how organization structure is designed, right? See, there are clear, unbroken lines of relationships, right? So that is known as Scala principle. If they are broken, if those things are broken, which means that this person is no longer related to this particular head, right? So this is interconnected network in the organization. If the line breaks in some point, which means that there are no relationship. These people are no longer related to each other, right? So then we can't survive. We can't survive in an organization because we are interconnected. Organization is an interconnected. Uh, that's why we basically at the very beginning we talked about a system perspective. Organization is a system perspective. One component is interconnected with another component. So that is simply known as Scala principle, right? Clear and unbroken authority, which means that the one who is in the higher level has a higher authority, and the one who is in the lower level has a low authority than that, right? So, for example, department head having lower authority than the dean, and dean having the lower authority than the vice chancellor, right? So that is known as Scala principle. When you design organization structure, those principles must be followed. Otherwise, you can't get the things done efficiently and effectively. මොකද department head බලය වැඩි කරොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? deanට වැඩිය. ඊට පස්සේ department head instructions දෙන්න යනවා deanට. එතකොට උඩ ඉන්න කෙනෙකුට instructions දුන්නාම එයා ඊට වැඩිය හොඳයි යටින් තියෙන එක. හැමතිස්සෙම උඩ තියලා තියෙන බලය වැඩි කෙනා. වැඩි බලය වැඩි කෙනා orders instructions දෙනවා. එතකොට ඒක තමයි මැක්ස් වෙබර් කිව්වේ බලය වැඩි කෙනාට හැමතිස්සෙම වැඩි knowledge එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. අපි performance based කිව්වේ performance based කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? performance based කියන්නේ තනතුරු වලට ඉහළ තනතුරු වලට පත් කරනකොට order එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. order එක කියන්නේ දැනුම කුසලතාවය බලය අඩු වෙන්න ඕනේ. දැනුම කුසලතාවය ඉහළ තනතුරට වැඩි වෙන්න ඕනේ. දැනුම කුසලතාවයේ බලය පහළ තනතුරකට වඩා ඉහළ තනතුරේ වැඩි වෙන්න ඕනේ. ක්ලියර්? එතකොට එහෙම වුණොත් තමයි බලය විතරක් වැඩි කළා මදි knowledge එකත් වැඩි වෙනවා. මොකද instructions orders දෙන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම අර මේ ඒ තනතුරට සාධාරණයක් කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම දැනුමත් වැඩි වුණාන් පස්සේ. ඒකනේ වයිස් චාන්සලර් කෙනෙක් පත් වෙන්න සාමාන්‍ය most senior professor කෙනෙක් පත් කරගන්නේ. මොකද යාට අත්දැකීම් වැඩි. අත්දැකීම් යුනිවර්සිටියක් රන් කරන්න නම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අත්දැකීම් වැඩි වෙන්න ඕන. දැනුම වැඩි වෙන්න ඕන. කුසලතාවය වැඩි වෙන්න ඕන. leadership skills තියෙන්න ඕන. right? ඒක තමයි මැක්ස් වෙබර් කිව්වේ. ඒක හිමුනොත් තමයි ආයතනයක් efficiency effectiveness වලට ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. සාර්ථක තැනකට ගෙනියන්න. රටක නායකයෙක් වෙන්න ඕන කවුද කියලා ඕගොල්ලෝ හිතා ගන්න. හරි? රටක නායකයෙක් වෙන්න ඕන කවුද කියලා ඕගොල්ලෝ හිතා ගන්න. Right? Right. Right. Then the next important one is the reporting relationship is span of control. Right? Span of control. Lines of authority and span of control. Second one. Your chain of command, span of management. Chain of command is further divided into two: unity of command and scalar principle. And the next important thing is span of management or span of control. What is span? Span means number, scope. Span means scope or number, right? Simply span of management is number of employees given to one particular manager in the organization structure, right? If you take this particular manager is given two spans. In this case, 3 span. In this case, 4 span, right? In this case, 5, which means that 5 employees given, number of employees given to a particular manager is known as span of management or span of control, right? So there are two, there are considerations when deciding span. There are considerations when deciding span, whether a high span or low span, right? Whether a large number of people given to a one particular manager, or whether a small number of people, few number of people given to the particular manager, must be decided by the people who organize, or by the people who design the organization structure, right? So normally the top management may decide how many span, how many, in the sense that number of people given to each manager must be decided, right? With a large number of people, with a small number of people, that must be determined. So that determination is based on different factors. That determination is based on different factors. Narrow versus wide span. Narrow in the sense that very small number of people. Wide means very large number of people, right? So that's how with these two terminologies, we have two another separate terminologies. We have wide organization structures and we have flat organization structures, right? So wide organization structures, normally from a pyramid, we denote an organization structure. Can you remember we drew a pyramid at the very beginning? There are 3 levels, right? In an organization structure, we, in order to denote a particular organization, we drew a kind of a pyramid shape we drew, right? So in that, we basically, we told that top level management is there, middle level management is there, and lower level management is there, right? So this denotes an organization, right? So we have flat organizations and we have wide organizations, or flat organizations. Sorry, right? We have tall organizations, and we have flat organizations, right? So tall organizations, we have different layers. In each level, right? In each level, we have few number of people, right? In each level, few number of people means for each manager given there is few number of people. Span is narrow, right? Normally in flat organizations, we have narrow organizations, narrow span. Tall organizations, which means that when span is narrow, span is narrow simply means that few number of people given to one particular manager, like this, right? You can simply understand, but like this. For example, manager is there. Under that manager, there are 2 subordinates. 2 simply means that few number of people, very limited number of people, and each manager again given to employees, given to likewise which means that this is a level, and this is another level, 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 and this is another level. See how many levels are there? Organization is something like a very tall organization. There are different levels, right? So narrow span means for each manager, few number of people are given. You have this, you have like this, right? Same thing. You have this, you have this, right? Like this. Same thing, right? Maybe 2 or 3 people given to each manager. Then you have simply a tall type pyramid, tall pyramid, right? In contrast, you have a large pyramid, sorry, not large, flat pyramid. Flat in the sense that you have a top manager there. Each manager is given maybe 5 managers, 5 5 subordinates, right? So then what happens? When this person given large number of people, that becomes broader, like this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then this particular manager gives another 5. This is how flat organization comes, right? You have flat organization, which means that for each level, there are a large number of people. From this level, maybe very base is large. Base is large. When you go to top, end up with 1, right? That's how pyramid type organizations you have. And the shape of the pyramid is determined by the span. So that's the conclusion. You have different shapes, basically 2 shapes, tall and wide. Tall organizations, and at the same time, you have wide organizations. So by not wider, we simply say that flat organization, tall and flat. Flat organization structure comes always with the wider span. Tall organizations comes always with the narrower span. Right? Narrow simply means that few number of people given to a one particular supervisor. Clear? Now, so this particular equation, suppose that for example, this is to basically no need to memorize all these things, right? So this is mathematical calculations, no need to memorize, just to show you show you the seriousness, show you the importance of this. This denotes the span, right? This particular equation formula is given here in order to highlight the importance of span. Span in the sense that whether we go for a narrow span or a wider span. අපි පටු අවකාශයකට යනවද පුළුල් අවකාශයකට යනවද? පටු අවකාශයකට යනවා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? We simply give few number of people to a manager. Now, let me know. Span simply means that possible interactions, right? If you are given, suppose that you are here, if you are given 2 employees, you are the manager and these 2 employees are the subordinates of you, right? Subordinates of you. ඔබ යටතේ ඉන්න යටත් සේවකයෝ. හරිනේ? Subordinates of you. Now in this case, if you are given only 2 employees, simply this lines denotes possible interactions. Only what are the maximum interactions that can be done? Those 2 people can be done for this particular employee. Interactions means number of problems. Interactions of number of problems. Interaction simply means that number of problems created, job related problems. Now, what happens normally if a supervisor is given? For example, if there is a problem? Now, what happens at the very beginning? I had a login problem to the Zoom account, right? At about 9:25, around 9:30, I had a big problem to accessing Zoom account. So then I had to, at that time, I was thinking about to cancel though, because without the Zoom account, I can't conduct the lecture. So therefore, there is an access problem. Then there is a problem. As per the timetable, this particular this subject has been scheduled to this time, 9:30 to 11:30, right? So this is a formal procedure. Now what I have to do is, there is a problem, right? So job related problem that need to be communicated, that need to be informed. ඒක රැකියාවේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක්. දැන් රැකියාව වගකීමක් මට බාර දීලා තියෙනවා. මේ වගකීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක්. මගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙවෙයි. මේක සිස්ටම් එකේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නිසා මට මේ ලෙක්චර් එක කරන්න බෑ. I had to immediately inform to the department head. මේ department head ගේ වැඩ පහසු කරගන්න coordinator කෙනෙක් පත් කරලා තියෙනවා. head නියෝජනය කරන්න. එහෙනම් මම immediately what I have to do is that coordinator need to be informed on behalf of the department head. Right? So what I did was I just made a phone call and inform. Right? Then අපි හිතමු department එකට ඔය වගේ lecturers 50 දෙනෙක් දීලා තිබුණා කියලා. දැන් ඔන්න මේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ batches 50ක් යනවා. දැන් ඒ batches 50ට coordinators 50 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. දැන් මොකද වෙන්නේ? head ගේ capacity එකට. number of interactions කියන්නේ number of problems නේ. මොකද හෙඩ් කෙනෙක් ඉන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම සුපර්වයිස් කරන්න වැඩක් සහ ඉන්ස්ට්‍රක්ෂන්ස් දෙන්න ලීඩර්ෂිප් එකක් දෙන්න. එතකොට යට වැඩ හරියට වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් we need to job related problems need to be reported to the department head, immediate supervisor. නේ මේ දෙන්න සුපර්වයිස් කරන්නේ මෙයානේ. එතකොට මේ දෙන්නගේ වැඩ බලන්නේ මෙයා. එතකොට මේ දෙන්න සම්බන්ධයෙන් මොනවා හරි වැඩ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ගැටලුවක් තියෙනවා නම් definitely these two people need to inform this particular person. අපි වයිස් චාන්සලර්ට ඉන්ෆෝම් කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැනේ. මේ ඕගනයිසේෂන් ස්ට්‍රක්චර් එකේ තියෙන්නේ වැඩ පහසු කරගන්න බලය දීලා තියෙන එකයි. හරි. එතකොට අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? මේක මෙතනට වැඩි. මේ මැනේජර්ට තව එම්ප්ලොයි කෙනෙක් දුන්නොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? දැන් possible interactions වැඩි වෙනවනේ. දැන් මේ මැනේජර්ට තව එම්ප්ලොයි කෙනෙක් දුන්නොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? තව වැඩි වෙනවනේ. මේක තව දුන්නොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? interactions හදන ප්‍රශ්න ගන්න වැඩි. දැන් ළමයි පවුලේ ළමයි ඇති වුණත් ඒ වගේ තමයි. අම්මා තාත්තට එක ළමයෙක් ඉන්නවා නම් ගැටලු අඩුයි. ළමයි දෙන්නෙක් ඉන්නවා නම් ගැටලු වැඩි. ළමයි තුන් දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා නම් තවත් ගැටලු වැඩි. ළමයි හතර දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා නම් නේ තවත් ගැටලු වැඩි. නේ එක ඉස්සෙල් එක කාර් එක ඊළඟ දැන් කාර් හතරක් ඉල්ලනවා. කොහොමද මම කාර් හතරක් දෙන්නේ ළමයින්ට? අන්න ඒ වගේ තමයි. හරිනේ? possible interactions, possible problems. Those possible, the number of possible interactions made derived by this equation. Can you understand what I'm telling? මේ equation එකෙන් කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේ හදන possible problems ගන්න. දැන් අපිට මේ equation එකට apply කරගන්න පුළුවන්. නිකන් මට හදන්න මේක කියන්න employees ලා දෙන්නෙක් දුන්නොත් particular manager කෙනෙකුට හදන problems ගන්න මේකෙන් determine කරන්න පුළුවන් අපිට. Right? හදන problems ගන්න. දැන් I කියන්නේ interactions. N කියන්නේ number of subordinates. If a manager has two subordinates, what are the possible relationships or possible interactions? Then apply කරන්න මේකට දෙන්නෙක් කියලා හිතලා කීයද උත්තරේ? දෙකට මෙතන n වලට දෙක දාන්න. මෙතන දෙක දාන්න. මෙතන දෙක දාන්න. උත්තරේ මෙතනට දෙක දාන්න. 2 2 4යි. මෙතන 2 2 4යි. මෙතන 4 2කින් බෙදුවාම 2යි. 2 2 4යි. 4යින් එකක් අඩු කරාම 3යි. 3 වරක් 2 කීයද? හරිද බලන්න. Now possible interactions. So possible problems are six. Six problems created, job related problems need to involve by the manager, immediate supervisor, right? He has six problems in a single time, right? Suppose that another employee is given, three employee, right? So what happens to this amount? Now you have to put three. Now three. Yes, don't need this. What happens? 18 multiplied by 3. That earlier amount තුන්ගුණයකින් වැඩි වෙලා. This possible problems has been when you add one more employee to this particular manager, the possible problems have been multiplied by 3 times than the previous. කියන්නේ එක්කෙනෙක් add කරොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ එහෙනම්? තුන් ගුණයක් වැඩි වෙලා. තව එක්කෙනෙක් වැඩි කරන්න. 4. Now what happens? What is the number? What are the number of possible problems created? 96? Yes. Right? So see 4, 2, 4, 2, 2, 2, 2 divided by 2, 4 minus 1. What is the answer? What is the answer? 44. Are the 44? Right? Anyway, you just need to need not to calculate all these things, just to have an understanding how many, when you add one more person to a particular manager, see how interactions are multiplied, interactions are increased, problems are increased. So therefore, when determining how many number of people given to a particular manager, whether increase or decrease, is determined by the careful investigation of the capacity of the manager. Right? අපි එකපාරට හුදෙක් එකපාරට මිනිස්සු වැඩි කරලා සබෝඩිනේට්ස්ලා වැඩි කරලා ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකට ලෝඩ් එක වැඩි කරොත් ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකේ ෆන්ක්ෂනලිටි එක නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද එක්කෙනෙක් වැඩි කරපු ගමන් possible interactions ගන්න වැඩි වෙනවා. දැන් දෙන්නෙක් ගිහින් යලා දෙන්නගේ හින්දලා තුන් දෙනාට නෙවෙයි අපිට certain limit එකක් පැන්න ගමන් interactions විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් එක දිගට වැඩි වෙනවා. multipliers එනවා. ගුණකයක් එන්නේ. එතකොට 10 ඉඳලා 11 කරොත් අර එකේ ඉඳලා දෙක කරට වඩා වැඩි මල්ටිප්ලයි එකක් එන්නේ. ඒක නිසා අපි 10ක් කරන කෙනාට තව එක්කෙනෙක් ඇඩ් කරපු ගමන් වෙන්නේ මොකද? ඒක විශාල ගුණකයකින් ප්‍රොබ්ලම්ස් ගන්න වැඩි වෙන. එතකොට ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් හෙඩ්ට දරා ගන්න බෑ ඒ කැපැසිටි එක. ඒක නිසා මේක කෙයාෆුල් සයන්ටිෆික් ඇනලිසිස් එකක් කරන්න ඕනේ. අපිට මේ එම්ප්ලොයිස්ලා දෙන ප්‍රමාණය කොච්චරද යාලගේ උපරිම වැඩ ගන්න. Because our ultimate task is to get the things done efficiently and effectively. Right? We need to deal with resources. So therefore, careful scientific investigations and scientific method of applying these kind of things, by doing these kind of things, we can get the things done scientifically. Right? So our task is to get the things done efficiently and effectively in any way. Right? So therefore, I just wanted to show you these things, the possible interactions. So when you're deciding a span, when you're deciding whether narrow span or wide span is given to a particular manager, is determined by a careful analysis. There is a serious concern on that. Otherwise, if you increase somebody else to a particular manager, adding one more person to a particular manager will create serious problems to the organization, right? So when you add more persons or deduct more persons, when you add or deduct a certain number of people, must be done with a careful analysis about the manager's capacities. manager capacity එක බලලා ඕන අපි ඒක කරන්න. හරිනේ? manager capacity එක තියෙනවා නම් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. No issues. Right? We need to carefully analyze the capacity of the manager. Subordinate, not the subordinate, manager or the leader or the supervisor. Right? මෙයා තමයි serious concern එක දෙන්න ඕනේ. Right? මෙන්න මෙයාට. එතකොට මෙයාට capacity එක ගොඩක් තියෙනවා නම් no issue. When you are adding new persons. Right? Right. So based on that, you have a flat organizations and tall organizations. Then flat මෙන්න මේ ගානට වඩා වැඩිපුර tall මේ ගානට වඩා වැඩිපුර there is no rule, right? So that is a relativity. There is a relativity comparison, right? Compared to a that may be dependent on subjective judgment, right? So in case of 500 employees in an organization, 10 employees given for a manager may be a large or flat or wide span. 2 employee, 3 employee may be a narrow span, right? So when you have let's say 50,000 people in your organization, 50,000 people in your organization, obviously 10 people may be a narrow span, right? Narrow span. 10 people may be narrow span given to a particular manager in a 50,000 employee organization. Right? 50,000 people employed in a 500 employed organization. 10 people may be a wider span, right? That depends on the number of employees occupied in the organization. That is a subjective judgment whether it is a narrower or whether it is a wider span, right? So here you have levels. Levels denotes this is a particular one level, this is a one level, right? This color denotes one level, green color denotes another level, right? Blue color denotes another level, and red color denotes this, right? It's levels 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Span of control, each manager is given 3, right? Each manager is given 3. Total employees 40. So you have to all count the boxes. 1, 2, 3, this is 4. Then likewise, there are 40 people. Right? In this case, levels reduced by 1, which means that there are 3 levels. Span 7, each manager is given 7, which means that kind of a wider span when compared to the previous one, right? There is a wider span when compared to the previous one. In earlier case, the control is 3. Span of control is 3. Now 7, right? Each employee is given, each manager is given 7 employees, right? You have 7, you have 7, and there are 3 levels. 1, 2, 3. Likewise, altogether 57, which means that what this particular two pictures denotes to you. In the previous case, kind of a tall organization structure is there. When you have a tall organizations, normally you have very small number of people. When you have a flat organization structure, maybe you will have a large number of people. So that's the thing you need to understand, right? So when this is a tall organization, tall hierarchy, this is a flat hierarchy. So normally we use the term hierarchy to denote structure. Hierarchy means what you call this? Hierarchy simply means that sequential order, right? In this, you have a relatively narrow span, relatively wider span, right? So when the levels are higher, this is a funny picture, but even though this is funny, this gives a very important message to us, right? So what happens there when the levels are higher? What happens? Those who are in the lower levels have very fewer authority. නේ fewer authority එක හරිම අඩුයි. බලය හරිම අඩුයි. බලය අඩු වෙන මොකද වෙන්නේ? අනිත් ඇවුන්ගේ ජරාව කොහොම අපිට කන්න වෙනවා. නේ හැබැයි මේක විතරක් වුණා නම් organization එක you have only 2 levels නේ you have only 2 levels in your organization. What happens නාගන්න ප්‍රමාණය වෙන්නේ මෙයාගේ ජරාව විතරයි නාන්න වෙන්නේ නේ එතකොට these people having certain kind of authorities මෙයාට බලයක් තියෙනවා මෙයාට වැඩි අඩු බලයක් විතරයි මෙයාට තියෙන. එතකොට මේ කට්ටිය decision making power එක වැඩි ගොඩක්. නේ? එතකොට එහෙනම් වඩා හොඳ organization structures මොනවාද? flat the toll. toll වෙන්න මෙතන qualifications අඩුයි. මේ පහළ මට්ටම් වල ඉන්න අය. අනිත් පැත්තෙන් authorities අඩුයි. responsibilities නුත් අඩුයි. මේ කට්ටිය ගොඩක් අර එතකොට මෙයාලගේ ජරාව මෙයාලගෙන් ඕඩර්ස් මේකේ මේ කට්ටියගේ බලය වැඩි. කියන්නේ මේ කට්ටිය නාගන්න ප්‍රමාණය අඩු දුක් විඳින ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි. හැබැයි ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ මට්ටමේ ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකකට ගියොත් දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට යන්න තියෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ මට්ටමට. මොකද ඔයගොල්ලන් ක්වොලිෆිකේෂන්ස් වැඩිනේ. නේ? එතකොට ගොඩාක් දුරට අද වර්තමාන ඕගනයිසේෂන්ස් ගොඩාක් මේ මොකද එම්ප්ලොයිස්ලා ගොඩාක් මල්ටි ස්කිල් නේ. මේ දැනුම වැඩි. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ කවදාවත් PM ජොබ් එකක් කරන්න යයිද මේ ආයතනයක? නේ? මේ වගේ මට්ටමකට යන්නේ නැහැ නේ. You are going to this kind of levels. මේ වගේ levels වලට ඔයගොල්ලෝ යන්නේ. නේ? එතකොට අද work force එකේ ඉන්න වැඩි හරියක් මිනිස්සු skillful වෙන්න toll type organizations හරියන්නේ නැහැ ලෝකෙට. මොකද මේ levels automatically delete වෙලා මේ levels වලට තමයි යන්නේ. එතකොට automatically the organizations becomes flatter. ඒක නිසා තමයි අද ගොඩාක් මේ traditional organization structures කර්මන්නේ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් අපේ යුනිවර්සිටි සිස්ටම් එක ඒක මැනේජ්මන්ට් ස්ටයිල් එක ටිකක් එච්චර හොඳ මදි. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට අලුතෙන් කෝස් එකක් හඳුන්වලා දෙන්න ගියොත් අවුරුදු 2ක් විතර යනවා උඩරිම. ඉතින් අවුරුදු 2ක් යනකොට ඉන්නවුන් මැරලත් ඉවරයි අලුතෙන්. නේ? ඒක නිසා අර ගොඩක් දුරට virtual organic based flat organization structures වර්තමානයේ ගොඩක් බිහි වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒවා ඉක්මනින් තීරණ ගන්න පුළුවන්. මේ layers ගන්න අඩු වෙන්න ගොඩාක් decision making power එක වැඩි වෙනවා. අනිත් එක මෙයාගේ authority වැඩි වෙනවා. මේ කට්ටිය independent, මේ කට්ටියට empowerment එක වැඩි වෙනවා. බලය වැඩි වෙනවා. මේ කට්ටිය තනි තීරණ ගන්න පුළුවන්. අනිත් අයගේ orders එනකන් ඉන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. නේ? මොකද දැනුම වැඩි, කුසලතාවය වැඩි, බලය වැඩි, ඒකම authority එක වැඩි කරනොත් තීරණ ගන්න පුළුවන් ඉක්මනින්. ඒක නිසා obviously අපේ organization structural change එකකට යනවා. structural change උනායින් පස්සේ අර අපිට modern structures තියෙනවා ගොඩාක් වර්තමානයේ මේ traditional structures මේවා වැඩක් නැහැ ගොඩක් දුරට outdated මේවා වර්තමාන ලෝකෙට ගැලපෙන ගොඩාක් organic type ගොඩාක් මේ modern organization structures තියෙනවා but I don't have time to teach those things. I have been given only 20 hours. Right, so therefore I have to limit with the traditional type of organization structures. Now, factors influencing the span of management, right? Factors influence, as I told you, there are factors to be considered by which we determine whether increased span or decreased span is given. Can you understand what I'm telling? Narrow span එක manager කෙනෙකුට දෙන යටත් සේවකයෝ සංඛ්‍යාව විශාල සංඛ්‍යාවක් දෙනවද කුඩා සංඛ්‍යාවක් දෙනවද කියලා තීරණය කරන්න සාධක කීපයක් බලපාන. අන්නේ සාධක තමයි මේ කතා කරන්නේ factors influencing the span of management. Right? So competence of the supervisor and subordinates. Subordinates ලගේ competency එක වැඩි නම්. නේ? දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදියට subordinates ලගේ දැන් අපි හිතමු දෙන්නෙක් දීලා තියෙනවා. subordinates ලගේ මෙයාලා highly skillful, knowledgeable, talented. දැන් එහෙනම් මෙයාලා පිළිබඳ දැඩි විමසිල්ලකින් ඉන්න ඕනද? මෙයාලා පිළිබඳ මෙයාලා හදාගන්න ප්‍රශ්න ප්‍රමාණය රැකියාවේ අඩුයිනේ. දැනුම තියෙනවනේ, කුසලතාවය තියෙනවනේ. දැනුම අඩු නම් තමයි මෙයාලට සුපර්විෂන් එක මෙයාලට උපදෙස් දෙන්න වැඩිපුර. එහෙනම් මොකද වෙන්නේ? තව එක්කෙනෙක් වැඩිපුර දුන්නට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. මොකද තනියෙන් මේ කට්ටියට වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්. they can work independently because they are skillful to do the jobs. They are knowledgeable, they are talented, they have more competencies. Once the competencies increase, what happens? We can increase the span. Then competence is low, knowledge low, decrease the span. And when it comes to supervisor ගේ competency එකත් වැඩි වෙනවා. එහෙනම් වැඩිපුර දුන්නා කියලා මෙයාගේ competency එක වැඩි වෙනකොට මෙයා capacity එක වැඩි වෙනකොට obviously he can manage more people. Manager highly competent. යකු 10කට ගහවි එකපාරට. ඒ තරම් හරිම දක්ෂයි. එයාට හොඳට මිනිස්සුත් එක්ක වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්. Capacity is high. So then obviously both managers and subordinate competency increase the span, decrease the span. Positive relationship. Greater the competence, wider the potential. Wider the potential in the sense that wider options, wider span. Right? Physical dispersion of subordinates. Physical dispersion means spread. Subordinates la physically disperse වෙච්ච ප්‍රමාණය විශාලයි. Then in that case, මෙයා අනුරාධපුරේ ඉන්නේ, මේ subordinate ඉන්නේ කොළඹ. Then how can he supervise? දුර වැඩි. විශාල භූමි ප්‍රදේශයක තමයි මේ subordinates locate කරලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට sales staff එක. අපිට area manager එකක් තියෙනවා. area managers ලා ඉන්නවනේ. දැන් pharmaceuticals වලට එහෙම distribution channel එකේ area managers ලා ඉන්නවා. හරිනේ? අපි හිතමු area එක down south කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කළුතරේ ඉඳලා මොනරාගල දක්වා area එක down south කියන්නේ. දැන් මේ ලොකු dispersion එකක් තියෙනවනේ geographically. මොනරාගලයි කළුතරයි කියන්නේ ලොකු area එකක්. අපි දකුණු පළාත කියන්නේ ගාල්මාතර හම්බන්තොට විතරයි. by down south කියලා sales territories වලදී sales distributions වලදී down south කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කළුතරේ ඉඳලා බලන්න ඕනේ මේ මොනරාගල හරියට විතර යනවා. එතකොට කළුතර ජෙනරල් මැනේජර් ඉන්නව නම් මොනරාගල සබෝඩිනේට් මොනරාගල සේල්ස් රෙප්‍රසන්ටේටිව් කෙනෙක් මොනවද කරන්න කියලා සුපර්වයිස් කරන එක ලේසි පහසු වැඩක්ද? අමාරුයි. මොනරාගල 10 දෙනෙක් තව වැඩි කරොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? වැඩ නොවන සම්භාවිතාවය වැඩි. ඒක නිසා ඩිස්පර්ස් වෙන ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි වෙන්න අපි යන්න ඕනේ මොකටද? narrower the span. dispersion එක අඩු වෙනකොට wider the span. ළඟ ඉන්නවනම් වැඩිපුර ටිකක් දුන්නට කමක් නැහැ. Right? Next, extent of non-supervisory work in the job. Non-supervisory job, which means that the manager's job doesn't have supervision, which means that the subordinates can work independently. Non-supervisory work. Supervisory work කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ එච්චර. එයාගේ subordinates ලා තනියෙන් වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට මොකද වෙන්නේ? Wider the span. ඒක නිසා span එක වැඩි කරාම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. මොකද එච්චර ප්‍රශ්න හදන්නේ නැහැ. තනියෙන් වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් subordinates වලට. ඒතොර ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට non supervisory work job එකේම තියෙනවා සමහරක් වෙලාවට manager supervise කරන්න නැති job එකක් ඒක. manager එච්චර supervise කරන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. අන්න ඒ වගේ වෙලාවකදී non supervisory work managers ලට we can increase the span. Degree of required interaction. නේ සමහරක් jobs තියෙනවා manager කෙනෙක් එක්කම තමයි වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ. manager ගේ authorization ගන්නම වෙනවා. මොනවාද උදාහරණයක් විදියට banks වගේ දේවල් banking වගේ සල්ලි වගේ කටයුතු කරනකොට හැමතිස්සෙම strict supervision එකක් යටතේ තමයි වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ. දැන් front office එකේ නේ front office එක බැංකුවක ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට විශාල සංඛ්‍යාවක් එක මැනේජර් කෙනෙකුට දුන්නොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? ටෙලර්ස්ලා 25ක් විතර දෙනවා එක සුපර්වයිසර් කෙනෙකුට. දැන් අර කස්ටමර් පොලිමේ ඉන්නවා කැෂියර් එකේ. දැන් ටෙලර්ස්ලා 25 දෙනාම එක සැරේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආවොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? මැනේජර් දරා ගන්න අමාරුයි. මැනේජර්ට කරන්න අමාරුයි වැඩ ටික. ඒක නිසා ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට කරන්නේ අර සුපර්වයිසරි වර්ක්ස් ගොඩක් ඉන්ටරැක්ෂන් එක අත්‍යවශ්‍ය නම් සුපර්වයිසර් ප්‍රධානියාගේ ඉන්ටරැක්ෂන් එක ජොබ් එක කරගෙන යන්න හැමතිස්සෙම අවශ්‍යයි. බැංකුවල වගේ. සුපර්වයිසර් කෙනෙක් ඉන්න ඕනේ ළඟ. හරිනේ? ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට මොකද වෙන්නේ? number of span possible span එක narrow වෙන්න ඕනේ. interaction වැඩි වෙන possible span එක අඩු. Frequency of new problems. If subordinates create more problems or less problems, lesser the problems, manager's involvement is lesser. Larger the problems, or in other words, more frequent jobs, more frequently created problems, frequently creating jobs, creating problems, which means that more problems narrow the span. Low problems, more problems narrow, low problems widen. Frequency of new problems high, narrow. New problems low, widen. Similarity of tasks being supervised. Similarity, similar ones. ඔක්කොම කරන්නේ 10 දෙනාම කරන්නේ එකම වැඩි. එහෙනම් අමතර වෙන වෙන ප්‍රශ්න හැදෙන්නේ නැහැ. එකම ප්‍රශ්නයක් තමයි හදන්නේ. මොකද හැම දෙනාම කරන්නේ එකම වැඩේනේ. එහෙනම් similarity of tasks being supervised, higher the similarity, higher the potential span, wider span. Lower the similarity, lower the narrower the span. Right? Similarity එක අඩු නම් narrow. Similarity එක වැඩි නම් wider. Preference of supervisor. Supervisors ලගේ කැමැත්ත. If they prefer to have more, increase the number or wider span. If they prefer no, narrow, give the narrow. Okay. So those are the factors influencing the span, right? So with that we finish the third one, reporting relationship. Now fourth one, distributing authority. Fourth building block, distributing authority. First one, job designing. Second one, departmentalization. Third one, right? First one, we create jobs. Then we departmentalize. Then establish reporting relationships. Now, once the reporting relationship is established, we have to determine the authority. Who gives the highest authority and who gives the lowest authority? Simply as this is implied, the lower authority is given to these people and high authority must be given to these people. We need to determine the authority, which level of authority is given, right? So in this case, authority distribution, authority, right? So therefore, what do you mean by authority? Authority simply means that legitimized power. In other words, decision making authority, decision making power. තීරණ ගැනීමේ බලය. දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට, for example, a sales rep given discounts, right? So if you go to as a sales rep to a pharmacy, then pharmacy owner asks discounts. Let's say I can give you a maximum 5% discount, right? So in that case, pharmacy asks 10% discount. He simply says that I have not been authorized to give a 10%. I have been given I can maximum give you 5%. If you want to give a 10% discount, just contact my area manager, because area manager is above me. I am under him. I have been given only, let's see like this. He is given only, he can authorize to give 5% discount. If you contact this person, he can give 10% discount, right? So that's how, let's say you are the salesperson, you can give 5% discount and you have an area manager, right? This person can again give 5%. So this person, area manager, is given 10%, right? So then area manager is supervised by the regional manager. Regional manager can give 15% discount, right? So then if you want 20% discount, maybe you have to contact 20% marketing manager, right? If you want to have 50% discount, you can simply contact Mr. ABC. He is the owner of the company, right? So that's how authority has been given, right? Decision-making power. So this is lines of authority at the same time, we can say. Authority coming from top to bottom as a line. No any breaking point, right? So that is simply known as yes, there is a question. If subordinates are more competent, isn't it reduce the require the number of employees, and then it can reduce the span? Subordinates are more competent. Yes, why not? If the competency is higher, uh, competence is higher, we can increase the span. How you can argue that? We can, so span is higher because competence is there. So competence is in the sense that creating problems. Always we need to determine whether number of problems created higher or lower. We assume that once employee become competent enough, we assume that number of problems created will be lower, right? So when the increase is higher, sorry, when the competence is higher, obviously we assume that the number of problems will be created will be lower. In that case, number of problems lower. It means that number of possible interactions lower. So then we can simply increase the number of people, right? Span is higher span or wider span. Can you understand what I'm telling? EAS 173, right? Now span. Then after that, delegation, right? So delegation, authority can be delegated. Delegation is a kind of, is a process how authority is given. Simply delegation means delegation of authority. We have a technical term for that, that is known as delegation of authority. How the authority is given. The way of authority distribution is known as delegation of authority. Simply known as delegation of authority, simply known as uh, authority giving process to each and every job, right? So this is the delegation process. Manager, you have a subordinate, assigning the, initially what we do is you assign the responsibility first, right? So with that responsibility, authority must be given, granting authority, right? And once you grant authority, you have created an accountability, right? Once you obtain these two, once you accept these things, for example, vice chancellor given me an appointment letter. In that appointment letter, everything instructed, the number of hours conducted, right? How much I am paid, what are the responsibilities I have to do, right? So what are the main things I have to complete? What are the terms and conditions in my employment given by a letter? So that is given, uh, that is known as responsibility. Responsibility is a formal letter, right? So maybe appointment letter, right? Appointment letter is the response, the way how it is given, right? So once I get the appointment letter, obviously that becomes a legal contract with me and the University of Roma, right? So that is a way of formally giving uh, the responsibility to get a certain thing done, right? So now manager points me as a subordinate through, that is the process is known as assigning responsibility. Now with that responsibility, at the same time, with that letter, you grant authority. Level of decision making power is given with the appointment letter normally. What decisions you can make, the level of decision-making power, authority, right? The capacities that you are able to make decisions introduced in that letter, right? So these two given from top to bottom, from top to bottom. Authority and responsibility is always from top to bottom. ඉහළ තනතුරක ඉඳලා පහළ තනතුරකට තමයි එන්නේ. Authority එකයි දැන් අපි කියනවා assigning responsibility and delegating authority, right? So delegation process is done somewhere here. Delegation, right? So now once you accept these two things, then you have accountability. What do you mean by accountability? Accountability simply means that answerability. If let's say in some days, for example, let's say assume that department head, your department head asks, Mr. Prashant, why didn't you conduct these 2 lectures held already scheduled in last week, right? So then simply I can't refuse that request. I have to answer that because I am responsible for answering that questions, right? I can't say, don't ask me, just ask it from coordinator. I'm not responsible for doing those kind of things. Missing lectures is not responsible for me. I can't say like that. Right? I'm responsible for the entire syllabus. If anything missed, I have to be responsible. So that responsibility is known as an accountability. That is not responsibility. People say like this, Mama waga kiyanna ඕනේ කියලා මම I am responsible for doing කියලානේ කියන්නේ මිනිස්සු. Responsible නෙවෙයි ඒක. අතනම I am obliged to do. I have an obligation. Simply in management terms we say that I have an accountability to do that. මට responsibility එකක් නෙවෙයි තියෙන්නේ, මට accountability එකක්. ඒක මගේ ඇඟ ඇතුලේ මම උත්තර දෙන්න ඕනේ. මම මොකක් හරි මේ වැඩේ නොකරුණා නම් මම වග වෙන්න ඕනේ. වග කියන්න ඕනේ නෙමෙයි. වග කියන එක එන්නේ උඩ ඉඳලා පහළට හැමතිස්සෙම. මේ වගකීම එන්නේ, වගකීම කියන්නේ award එකක්, ප්‍රදානයක්. වගකීමක් දෙනවා. ඒ වගකීම ඉෂ්ට කරන එකට අපි කියනවා accountability. ඉෂ්ට උනේ නැත්නම් ඒකට අපි වග වෙන්න ඕනේ. Accountable වෙන්න ඕනේ. Right? That is the difference between responsibility and accountability. Responsibility always come from top to bottom. ඉහළ ඉඳලා පහළට තමයි responsibility එකක් එන්නේ. කියන්නේ ඉහළ නිලධාරියෙක්ගෙන් පහළ නිලධාරියෙකුට ප්‍රදානය කිරීම. හරිනේ? So ඒක from always coming from top to bottom. And accountability always coming from down to up, top. Right? So ඒක පහළ නිලධාරියෙක්ගෙන් ඉහළ නිලධාරියෙකුට උත්තර දීමක්, බැඳීමක් අපි කියන්නේ. So that is the delegation process. There is another question, right? So can you explain it again? What? Delegation or span? You can interrupt me. You can ask any question. Don't write questions. You can by mouth. You can ask. You can interrupt me. It is open to you. Distributing authority. Distributing authority. Yes, distributing authority simply from coming from top to bottom. That is coming from the top to bottom. Normally, that is given with the top manager to a lower manager, lower employee by an appointment letter. Simply distributing authority is done along with the appointment letter, right? So then obviously appointment letter, with the appointment letter you have responsibility and authority both. Delegation, sorry, decentralization. Decentralization means, and we have two terminologies, centralization and decentralization. We have two options. One is centralization and the other one is decentralization. So centralization means authority, the highest authority lies at the top always. In that case, centralized. For example, all the authorities decision making authority may be lies or held in a one position. In that case, we say that centralization is there. සියලුම බලය එක තනතුරකට ගොනු වෙලා තියෙනවා. සියලුම බලය කියන්නේ අනුද්‍රව්‍ය ගන්න එක, සේවකයන්ට පඩි ගෙවන එක, සේවකයන්ට ප්‍රතිදාන ගෙවන එක, නිවාඩු දෙන එක, ඊළඟට මාකට් වලට යන එක, සියලුම තීරණ ආයතනයේ සියලුම තීරණ එක තනතුරකට බැඳලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේ වෙලාවකදී හරි අමාරුයි වැඩ කරන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ඒකාධිපති ස්වරූපයේ ආයතනයක් කියලා කියන්නේ. දැන් ලංකාවේ වැඩි හරියක් තීරණ ලංකාවේ ජනාධිපති තනතුරට අධික බලයක් තියෙනනේ. ඒ කියන්නේ බලය වැඩිපුර දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒකාධිපති කියන්නේ සෙන්ට්‍රලයිස් පොසිෂන් එකක් ඒක. ඒ කියන්නේ සියලුම බලය මේ දැන් අර උදාහරණයක් විදිහට මේ වත්මන් ජනාධිපතිතුමා කොහෙද අර ගමින් ගම වැඩසටහනක් තියෙනනේ. ඒකට ගියපුවාම මේ එක ගමේ මිනිස්සෙක් ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇහුවා. ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහලා කිව්වා අපිට මොනවද ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ කියලා. අපිට මොනවද ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් කිව්වා. ඊට පස්සේ ප්‍රශ්න කිව්වන් පස්සේ ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඒ වෙලේ උත්තරයක් දුන්නා මේ හරි එහෙනම් ඒක අපි විසඳන්න ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්නවා කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ ඒක ගන්නවා විසඳන්න ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්නවා. හරි ඒක අද ඉඳලා අපි ඒක ප්‍රයෝග ගන්නවා ඒක විසඳනවා කියලා හිතන්න. ඊට පස්සේ දැන් රාජ්‍ය නිලධාරියෙක් කිව්වා සර් අපිට ඒකට ප්‍රතිපාදන නැහැ. අපිට ඒකට චක්‍රලේඛයක් නැහැ කරන්න කියලා. මේ ඒ වැඩේ කරන්න. ඊට පස්සේ ජනාධිපතිතුමා කිව්වා මේ රටේ ජනාධිපති කියන්නේ තවත් මොකද චක්‍රලේඛ නේ ජනාධිපති කියන්නේ චක්‍රලේඛ මොනවටද තවත් කියන්නේ ඒ ජනාධිපති කටින් කියවුනාම ඒ තනතුරේ බලයත් එක්ක ඒක චක්‍රලේඛයක් පස්සේ ගහලා වන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට ජනාධිපති තනතුරෙන් කරන සියලු වගකීම් දරනවා. සියලු බලතල තියෙනවා ඒ තනතුරට. ඒ තනතුරේ කියන බලය එයා තීරණයක් ගත්තා නම් ඒ තීරණය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන එක තමයි මේ යටත් සේවකයන්ගේ වැඩේ තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට මේ තනතුර කියන්නේ තවත් මොකටද චක්‍රලේඛ නේ අන්න එතකොට centralized position එක all the decisions made by the one position centralized at the maybe top management is held a higher power higher authority, right? So opposite of that is decentralization. Decentralization means rather than keeping the highest authority at the top, that can be delegated to a lower levels of employment. දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට ෆාමසි ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකට අලුතෙන් එම්ප්ලොයිස්ලා බඳව ගන්න ඕනේ. අපි හිතමු ටෙම්පරරි ලෙක්චරර්ස්ලා. දැන් වයිස් චාන්සලර් ඉන්ටර්විව් එකට එන්නේ නැහනේ ඕකේ. එතකොට වයිස් චාන්සලර් ටෙම්පරරි ලෙක්චරර්ස්ලා බඳවා ගැනීමෙදිත් ඉන්ටර්විව් වලට පත් කරනවා නම් ඔන්න වයිස් චාන්සලර්ගේ තමයි අවසාන තීරණය ගන්නේ කවුද ලෙක්චර්ස් වලට අපොයින්ට් කරන්න ඕනේ කියන එක. ඉන්ටර්විව් කළා. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ වයිස් චාන්සලර් අවසන් ඩිසිෂන් ගන්නවා වයිස් චාන්සලර් ළඟ අධික බලයක් තියෙනවා. තියාගෙන තියෙන. හැබැයි දැන් ඒක ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් හෙඩ්ට ඒ බලය විමධ්‍යගත කරලා ඩීසෙන්ට්‍රලයිස් කරලා decision department head can decide whether this person or that person is appointed as a visiting lecturer. Decentralized. That decision making power, buying photocopy machines, buying let's say stationaries can be done to the department head. So that is this decentralized. නේ හැම තීරණයක්ම හෙඩ්ගෙන් ගන්න ආයතන ප්‍රධානියගෙන් ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒ බලයන් එක ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් හෙඩ්ට තනතුරු බලය පවර්ලා දීලා තියෙනවා. ඩීන්ට තනතුරු පවර්ලා තියෙනවා. නේ දැන් ලෙක්චරර්ට ස්ටුඩන්ට් කෙනෙක් ෆේල් කරනවද නැද්ද කියන එක ලෙක්චරර්ට තීරණය කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක වයිස් චාන්සලර් ළඟට යන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒක ලෙක්චරර්ට ඩීසෙන්ට්‍රලයිස් කරලා තියෙනවා වයිස් චාන්සලර් මේ ගේ බලතල. නේ හැබැයි උපාධිය ප්‍රදානය කරන ලෙක්චරර් කෙනෙකුට බලය දීලා නැහැ. ඒක වයිස් චාන්සලර්. වයිස් චාන්සලර් කෙනා අන්තිමට අස්සන ගහනවා. ඒතකොට ඒ උපාධිය ප්‍රදානය කරනවද නැද්ද කියන එක තීරණය කරන්නේ වයිස් චාන්සලර්. right? හැබැයි කෙනෙක් ෆේල් කරනවද නැද්ද කියලා තීරණය කරන්නේ ලෙක්චරර්. ඒතකොට ඒකත් වයිස් චාන්සලර්ගේම ඩියුටි එකක් තමයි. හැබැයි that has been decentralized to the lecturer. Right? So that's how decision making power is centralized to decentralized. Right? Organizations can adapt various degrees of this centralization or decentralization. We have some organizations, example organization. In some organizations, we have centralized authority. In some organizations, we have decentralized organizations. Decentralized authority. Right? So the organization එක flat වෙන්න decentralization එක මොකද වෙන්නේ? ෆ්ලැට් වෙන්න ඒ කියන්නේ ගොඩක් අය හෙඩ්ට ලොක් ආයතන ප්‍රධානියට ළඟින් ඉන්නේ. ළඟින් ඉන්නවා කියන්නේ ලෙවල්ස් ගන්න ලෙවල් දෙකක් විතර වගේ තමයි තියෙන්නේ. ෆ්ලැට් වෙන්න. මේන් ලෙවල්ස් දෙකක් තියෙන්නේ. හරි එතකොට වෙන්නේ මොකද? මෙයාගේ බලතල වලට සමානව මෙයා පහළ මට්ටම් වල ඉන්න අයට ගොඩක් බලතල තියෙනවා. හරි එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඩිසිෂන් මේකින් පවර් එක ගොඩක් දුරට ඩිසෙන්ට්‍රලයිස් කරලා තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ටෝල් ඕගනයිසේෂන්ස් වල මොකද වෙන්නේ? ටෝල් වල ලෙවල්ස් ගන්න වැඩි වෙනවා කියන්නේ ඩිසිෂන් මේකින් පවර් එක ගොඩක් අඩුයි පහළ මට්ටම් වලට යනකොට. මෙයා තමයි වැඩි හරියක් තීරණ ගන්න. මෙයා යටතේ තමයි ගොඩාක් තීරණ ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ. Right? So that is how centralization and decentralization applies. Right. Now time has gone past. With that, I'm going to wind up. So then you can, yes, I try my best to finish that lesson. Then centralization, then coordinating activities. Now what you are supposed to do is finish. I'll try my best to complete this session. Now you have an organization structure, right? So now you have an organization structure. We have design job, we departmentalize, right? Then we establish reporting relationships, then we authorize them, distributed authority. Now we have to coordinate. So normally coordination of activities done by the department heads, right? දැන් අපි කතා කරන්නේ coordination එක කියන්නේ දැන් department head vice chancellor ඉන්නේ නැහැනේ pharmacy department එකේ වැඩ ටික හොයලා බලන්න. All the department activities is coordinated by the department head. හෙඩ් කෙනෙක් පත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ වැඩ ටික කෝඩිනේට් කරන්න. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකේ කොච්චර වැඩ කරනවද බලන්න. ඒතර මේ ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකේ ෆාමසි ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකෙන් කරන වැඩ ටික ඔක්කොම හැන්ඩල් කරන්නේ කවුද? ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් හෙඩ්. ඒතර හැම ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් හෙඩ් කෙනෙක්ම තමන්ගේ ඩිවිෂන් එකේ වැඩ ටික කෝඩිනේට් කරන්න ඕනේ. දැන් දවසක් ලෙක්චර් එකක් කරන්න බැරුණොත් අර ඔයාගේ කෝඩිනේටර් කතා කරන ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ තගල අහනවා අපෝ වනේ කවද්ද දාගන්න ලෙක්චර් එක කවද්ද කරන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම රිමයින්ඩ් කරනවා මට අද උදේ රිමයින්ඩර්ස් 3ක් විතර ඇවිල්ලා තිබුණා අද කරන්නේ ලෙක්චර් එක අද තියෙනවා කියලා. ඉතින් මේ this is coordination, right? So she is doing on behalf of the department head. මොකද department head ගේ පහසුවට තමයි coordinators ලපත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ, right? ඇත්තටම මේක කරන්න ඕන department head. department head තමයි මේව කරන්න ඕනේ. So department head ගේ වැඩ පහසු කරන්න එයා බලය දීලා තියෙනවා වෙන කෙනෙකුට. ඒක department මට්ටමින් කරගන්න පුළුවන්, right? So that is coordination. So normally coordination is done by the department heads, right? එතකොට හැමතිස්සෙම කරන්න ඕනේ මේ දෙන්නගේ coordination එක මෙයා දරා ගන්න. මේ දෙන්නගේ coordination එක මොකද කරන්නේ? මෙයා දරනවා. දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට vice chancellor coordinate කරන්නේ කවුද? deansලා ටික විතරයි. deansලා මොනවද කරන්නේ? deansලා තමන්ගේ headලා coordinate කරනවා. headලා මොනවද කරන්නේ? headලා කරනවා coordinate lecturersලා. lecturersලා කවුද coordinate කරන්නේ? studentsලා. Right? So that's how coordination comes. Why with this coordination is need to be done? In order to get the efficiency and effectiveness. Right. There are some coordination techniques you need not to support. No, you are not supposed to go through in these. There are various coordination techniques. Simply just to have a rough idea how they can coordinate. They can coordinate through rules and procedures. Ne, වෙලාවට ගෙවන එක නවත්තන්න පුළුවන්. lecture එක cancel කරලා දාන්න පුළුවන්. නේ lecture අයින් කරලා දාන්න පුළුවන්. coordination rules and procedures තියෙනවා. rules and procedures follow කරේ නැත්තම් coordination එක ඉබේම ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් rules and procedures හරහා coordination එක කරන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද අනතුරට බලයක් දීලා තියෙනවා, rules තියෙනවා, procedures තියෙනවා, නීති තියෙනවා. ඒ නීති ප්‍රයෝජන ලගන වැඩ ටික කරව ගන්න පුළුවන් coordination. right? මේ වචර අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. task force එකේ coordination techniques තියෙනවා. මේ ඔක්කොම සාමාන්‍යයෙන් follow කරනවා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් department headලා. Now differentiating positions, last point. Now differentiating positions. You need to understand, now already you have developed the organization structure. You need to understand whether what are the job positions which are highly relevant and highly irrelevant. මොනවාද රැකියාවන් තනතුරු දැන් හිතන්න උදාහරණයක් විදිහට there are basically two types of positions in an organization, line positions and staff positions. ආයතනයක line අපි කියන රේඛීය jobs කියලා, line jobs and staff jobs. Line jobs are basically core jobs which are highly related to the basic service or production of the organization. Right? For example, think about a job which is not like, for example, think about a hospital without a doctor. Think about a university without lecturers and professors. Think about a school without teachers. Do we have? No. Right? So in that case, all these are line jobs. For example, pharmacy, drug producing company. In a drug producing company, production department employees, all the production related employees are line employees. University, academics. In a university, academics are the line positions. Hospital, nurses and doctors are the line staff. Right? School, academic, teachers and academic supportive staff, academic staff are the line staff. Garment manufacturing company, production department is the line staff. Right? What are the supporting staff? In a garment manufacturing organization, the marketing department employees, the HR department employees, ICT department employees, then finance department employees, all people are supporting to the main function. In a hospital, hospital වල supporting staff එකක් ඉන්නවා, administration staff එකක්, accountant කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා නේ, තව කවුද HR related කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. They are supporting to the main activity. Right? In your department, academics are supported. There is a supporting staff. Lab assistants la, technicians la, CAA la, computer application assistants la, work aides la, non-academics, library assistants la. All these people are supporting, right? So you need to understand in the organization hierarchy, what are the jobs related to the line functions and what are related to the staff function. Why you need to identify these two jobs? ඇයි ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේක අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි කරගන්න අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ? පැහැදිලිව අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි කරගන්න ඕනේ. මොකද මේ ආයතනයක හදිසි අවස්ථාවක් වුණොත් මොනවද වැදගත්ම රැකියාවන් ටික සහ වැදගත් නැති රැකියාවන් ටික. දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට ආර්ථික අවපාතයකදී ඕගොල්ලන්ට එම්ප්ලොයිස්ලා විශාල ප්‍රමාණයෙන් අඩු කරන්න ඕනේ. දැන් ලයින් ස්ටාෆ් එක අඩු කරොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? ලයින් ස්ටාෆ් එක අඩු කරොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? ලයින් ස්ටාෆ් එක කියන්නේ කෝ එම්ප්ලොයිස්ලා, මේන් එම්ප්ලොයිස්ලා. ඒ කට්ටිය අඩු කරොත් ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලා අඩු කරන්න යන්නේ කවුද? supporting staffලා. වැදගත් නැති අය තමයි ඉස්සෙල්ලා අපිට without them we can function. Without them we can function. නේ? දැන් ගොඩක් දුරට අපේ යුනිවර්සිටි අයගේ salary වැඩි වෙච්ච ගමන් යුනිවර්සිටි අයගේ salary වැඩි වෙච්ච ගමන් academic staff එකේ non academic ලා පඩි වැඩි කරන්න කියලා ස්ට්‍රයික් කරනවානේ. ස්ට්‍රයික් කරාට ගවර්න්මන්ට් අහුම්කම්වත් දෙනවද? නෑ, අහුම්කම් දෙන්නේවත් නෑ. non academic ලා කීපවතාවක් ස්ට්‍රයික් කළා මාස දෙකක් විතර යනකම් මේ උත්තරයක්වත් දුන්නේ නෑ, මීටින් එකක් දුන්නේ නෑ, ගණන් ගත්තේ නෑ. ඇයි? ඒ කට්ටිය නැතුව වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා දන්නවා. ඒක නිසා දැන් හැබැයි ඒ කට්ටිය හිතන් ඉන්නේ ඒ කට්ටිය නැතුව වැඩ කරන්න බෑ කියලා. මොකද අපිට හෝල් එකක් කරගන්න බැරිද? academics ලට හෝල් එකක් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. lab assistant ගේ වැඩේ අපිට කරන්න බැරිද? පුළුවන්. හැබැයි අපි නැති වුණොත් පියන් කෙනෙකුට ඇවිල්ලා ලෙක්චර් එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. නේ? නර්ස් කෙනෙකුට පුළුවන් ද ඔපරේෂන් එකක් කරන්න? නර්සින් වැඩේ ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙකුට කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? So that's the important for decision making. Identifying what are the important jobs, line jobs, and what are the supporting jobs in order to make decisions in some cases. Right? So that's all about the lesson.